Hi, this is Josh. Before the episode starts, I just want to give you a heads up that this is part two of a two-part episode. So if you haven't listened to the first one, I suggest going back and listening to it. Also, unfortunately, when we recorded this episode, I had some technical difficulties, so my mic sounds a little wonky. Hopefully, it's not too distracting and you can still enjoy the great content and conversation. And so, without further ado, here is part two of the overview of types of songs in musicals. Enjoy. Okay, so on to the next one, the charm song.
Okay, so the charm song. Now, it's kind of a dated term for this kind of a song, but here's what a charm song is. So typically, a charm song will be a palate cleanser. So when you have moments of drama, usually in Act Two, a charm song is placed to give us some relief, to let us breathe for a little bit, to, if not laugh out loud, funny, it doesn't always have to be a comedy song. It's a moment of levity that doesn't necessarily move the story forward. So you can think about, I mentioned already, Guys and Dolls from the musical Guys and Dolls. That is a charm song. It does not move the story forward. It's just a couple of guys singing about guys and dolls. So those kinds of brush up your Shakespeare. It does not move the story forward at all. It's just a really fun moment. It's a moment of levity in that show. Now, back in the golden age of musicals, you can pretty much find a charm song in every single show that was written. You don't always find them now because I don't want to say that we've moved past it, but it's become less of a necessity now. I think our audiences now, I think, are sort of used to absorbing a little bit more drama packed together than maybe they were at that point. I don't know, but we don't see them quite as much these days. But that's what a charm song is.
So I'm going to admit something here that maybe some listeners can relate to. I think I actually had the wrong idea of what a charm song is. I knew it served those things, but in my head, I was thinking it was one character sort of charming another character. Like I was thinking of Friend Like Me in Aladdin he's saying, "This is who I am. You need to believe me. Come along for the ride." Or Popular in Wicked she's like, "You're going to be popular." I don't know, maybe there's just certain charm songs that also kind of do that. I thought it was more like this playful song. Yes, it is often the more like sort of maybe popular or hit tune that could come out of a show, which is what you're speaking to. But I think I crossed the lines. I don't know. Did anyone else think that about charm songs, or am I coming from my film world and didn't quite do my homework?
That's how they teach it in BMI anyway. So I don't know. That's how I learned the charm song, the definition of a charm song. Again, we don't really use the term anymore so much, but that is the traditional function of a charm song.
Yeah. So I think the idea, though, of having a tune that is more in there really for fun and for entertainment, at least as a songwriter, it can be fun to write the charm song. And I think it can be liberating to say, you know what, what would be a really, really fun song for these characters or for this scene, or even for you as a songwriter? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're usually commenting on one of the major themes that's happening in the show, or commenting on some moment that has just occurred. I think the part of the reason that we don't see them as much anymore is that they take up real estate, and we try to keep our shows as tightly packed now as we can. That didn't used to be the case. Audiences had a much longer attention span back in the day. They could sit for 3 hours and watch a musical, and so you could fit a charm song in there no problem because audiences could sit through it. I mean, I will die on the hill that attention spans were longer back then than they are now. I think it's just a fact of life.
And of course they were. There was less going on. There wasn't TV. Going, how far back do you want to go, right? When Rodgers and Hammerstein were even involving the songwriting, even at that time, there still wasn't a lot of competition. And then television came out, and nowadays, of course, we have all sorts of ways to be distracted and feel like we should be somewhere else. But originally, you went to the theater. You were watching a story unfold. You were hearing songs. It was a combination of a concert and a play. And when you're at a concert and the singer sings whatever ninth song, you aren't thinking, this song isn't advancing the plot of this concert. You're just enjoying the song, or you're going and getting a beer or something. But, because it's a concert. And so as the storytelling of musicals evolved with Rodgers and Hammerstein and Sondheim and everyone and so on and so forth, people just got more, I think, also educated and interested maybe in what is this song doing? How is it pulling me in? And the ones that maybe are a little bit outside, start getting cut or just start not getting written, because it's more fun to write a song that serves all these different functions that we talk about. So interesting. So charm songs, take them or leave them. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Should there be more charm songs? Do you enjoy writing them? What are our thoughts on charm songs?
I enjoy a good charm song.
You enjoy a good charm song, right?
I enjoy a good charm song. Absolutely.
Next, we have a conflict or confrontation song. How would you call it?
I think either one of those are good. I think conflict song is more. Confrontation implies that it must be between two people, I think. So I think conflict song might be a better term for it. It can be two characters that directly oppose each other. It can also be a character who's in conflict with something in themselves or with some outside force that doesn't necessarily have to be another character. And that being said, or because of that definition, most songs in a musical will be some form of a conflict song, because usually songs arise when there is some kind of a conflict. So I think it's a broad term. You could narrow it down by saying we just want to talk about argument songs, which are between two characters, which definitely is a thing that does happen. The one that comes to mind immediately is Next to Normal. Diane and Dan sing at each other, which is pretty effective. So yes, there are argument songs and then there are conflict songs, and they're not necessarily the same thing.
Yeah. And would you say that going into a show, the audience is looking forward to that type of interaction? I think it's a fun way to use a song, because whenever you add music to a conflict or a confrontation or an argument, there's so much cool stuff you can do, whether it's just playing in various keys or various tempos, or actually literally having the music play back and forth to heighten the argument, the overlapping possibility, especially in a duet.
Yeah, there's so much you can do, and I really love the argument songs that are also comedy songs. I love like Anything You Can Do from Annie Get Your Gun, and the other one from Annie Get Your Gun is Old Fashioned Wedding, that they sing together. They sing two. It's called a partner song, where one character sings a song and then the other character sings to that same harmonic language. They sing a separate melody that sounds like a different song, and then they both come together and they both sing at the same time what they had sung separately, and it all works together. It's great.
Yeah, which is also one of my favorite tools in the toolbox, is to have someone sing one melody and then someone sing a different melody, and laying them on top of each other is so effective. And the other thing about conflict songs is that we talk about all the ways that we need conflict generally across a story, like we've said already. And this is just the most heightened version of that. This is bringing it all to a head, or a certain part of it together with music and lyrics and characters, going at each other. It's fun. It's a fun type of song to write and to watch.
I guess speaking of partner songs, we didn't really include that as one of our types of songs, but and because you don't find them in every show, but they are really fun to write. So if you get a chance to listen to some partner songs like Old Fashioned Wedding, listen to them. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I think this is also another point to remind everyone that we have this list of 10 songs, and already we're saying how these aren't necessarily 10 completely different types of songs. The comedy song can be an I Want song or a conflict song. A ballad can be, also, an I Want. These are just types of songs that we expect, and generally people look forward to hearing. I actually wrote a musical film recently, and I shared it with someone, and they were commenting. They're like, you're not quite hitting the types of songs that the audience would expect. And at that point, I was like, oh well, okay, I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I actually did try to at least get a certain number of them. But I guess also with that in mind, I want to remind us all that Brett and I are talking about rules and tropes and all this stuff, but we also want to always encourage folks to listen to yourself, do what you think is best for the show, even if you're breaking some rules. There ultimately, at the end of the day, there are no rules. Make something to the best of your ability and use all these as inspiration and guidelines. But yeah, it isn't that there are 10 types of songs that need to be in a show and just that. There's all cross pollination.
And you'll be rewriting for the rest of your life anyway, so you might as well just have a good time doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So should we move on? The next type of
Yeah.
tune that we have here is reprise or reprise.
Both are correct. Either are correct. They are both accepted and acceptable. We don't have to spend too much time on this. This is pretty easy. A reprise or a reprise is either an entire song or a piece of a song that we've already heard prior, and it makes a reappearance, usually meaning something different or having grown or evolved in meaning, and it's usually placed somewhere for emphasis on a specific moment, for poignancy, or for added emphasis, I guess.
I love the reprise. I love bringing a melody back. It's one of my favorite parts of watching a musical, because there is so much impact when we've heard a melody and then it comes back and something has shifted. But I also know that I've heard, Sondheim talk about how he doesn't necessarily like reprises because he thinks there should be a new moment, or why would you repeat something you've already done? And of course, that isn't to say he didn't write them or plenty of them or a lot, but like, is there any tips or tricks or thoughts you have on when to explore a reprise instead of a new tune?
Yeah, a couple. In any effective story, I think you're going to have moments that are echoes of moments that have already happened. I mean, it's just good storytelling. It's effective storytelling to have that happen. And so it's a natural thing to want to do, or a natural thing to gravitate towards. If there's a moment that's echoing another moment dramatically, then echoing it musically as well is oftentimes very effective. That's one thing. The other thing is, it is often very effective to have one character, especially if these characters are involved with each other either romantically or whatever, it to have that character sing another character's musical material, because it shows investment in that character, and that can sort of symbolize or represent a relationship or love or whatever. So I think that is also another reason why you might bring a reprise or a reprise into play, is when, say the female character sang a song in Act 1 that the male character overheard or whatever, and then he sings that back to her in Act 2. That can be very effective.
That is a great tip, that maybe a different character sings it is a great one way to approach it. I also think that something that can be so effective about the reprise is when the character is in a moment that is mirroring the moment they were in earlier, right? They're back at the same place, but they see it differently, as an obvious way to approach it. Also, where is the difference between combining songs into a sort of reprise, counterpoint, medley, or West Side Story, doing sort of the most iconic version of them all coming together? Where would that be a reprise? Well, I guess I'd be a reprise of like multiple songs at the same time, which is something I love doing when you can.
Oh, that's great if you can. It's tricky and it's challenging, but boy, it's super effective if it's done well.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess you just got to trust your gut on that and see what makes the most sense. And that's actually something I really do enjoy when writing, is to give myself the space to do that. To say, okay, here I am. This could be a new song. This could be something that hasn't happened yet for the character. But then when I really put myself into the character, I put myself into the audience, I can sometimes say, well, you know what? These two songs could smash together, if possible, or it is the same thing, but I can take it a new place and or reharmonize it, right? And suddenly it takes on a different meaning. And yeah, I find when approaching reprises, one thing I try to do is really listen to myself. Just get into that quiet place and go, what am I hearing here? And it's like, I want to hear that tune again, but a little different.
Yes, I want and that's it. I want to hear it again, but a little different. Yeah, that's great.
Now, obviously, reprises happen later in the show, which brings us to our next one, which is the act finale, which is usually an ensemble number.
Usually, yes,
but not always.
But usually, but not always, right? Yeah, and this again, you have shows where the ensemble in days of yore was used more often as a Greek chorus. That still does happen sometimes, but shows moved away from that, really starting with Sondheim. Actually, he never really liked the idea of using an ensemble as a Greek chorus. He liked thinking of each person as an individual human, and like it doesn't make sense for all of these characters to just be echoing what the two principal characters are saying because it has nothing to do with their lives. So why are they singing that, right? So I mean, I like to think of my ensembles that way just because it seems to make more sense to me. But yes, oftentimes your acts will end with an ensemble number. Again, not always, but it's just especially the end of the show, because there's usually some theme or some message that is being commented on at the end, which is like, what is it that we want the audience to walk away from this show with? What do we want them thinking on their way out the door? What do we want their reaction to be on the way out the door? And most of the time, it's just useful to have everybody on stage singing whatever that thing is. The end of Act 1, not always, but
yeah, end of Act 1 can be, usually you're going to have something big. Well, there's going to be something big happening in the story, right? That's the end of Act 1. Oftentimes, the ensemble will come out at some point. Maybe it's just at the very end to accent something, or just add that push into the intermission. But the end of the show, generally, you've reached this big ending, and there will be some sort of ensemble. I also, in my mind, I love using a reprise to end a show, because this is what it's been about. This is a melody we're all familiar with. We can now all sing it together, and you can leave with the tune in your head. But I actually don't know how common that is to end shows with a reprise, have that big closing number also be a previously established song.
Yeah, it does happen a fair amount. If you think about Sunday in the Park with George, it ends with a reprise of Sunday. And then you have a show like Next to Normal, which is a completely new song at the end of that called Light. There Will Be Light, right? So yeah, some shows do that and some shows don't. And I think it all depends on what that final moment is. What do you want?
Cat needs some food, or
No, he has plenty of food. He just woke up from a nap.
What's your cat's name?
This is Tobias. He's named after Sweeney Todd's Tobias, Toby. So yeah, it really depends on what you want what you want to say at the end of your show, and that can be a reprise, and that could be something new.
Yeah, I found I was writing this musical film that is this time travel love story, and I was getting to the end, and I was like, how do I stick this landing? I knew what was happening, and I then realized, oh, I should bring the songs back that I used before, which was what I was just talking about when writing reprises. And it was so helpful because once I committed to that, it stuck the landing, in my opinion, at least, and it elevated the ending to have that connection, to have that sense of bringing it all together, which worked for this story. And had I tried to write a whole new closing number, it felt like it would have been too much a departure from the journey that these characters had gone on. But I think that's true in a lot of musicals, which is what we've been talking about. You establish this I want at the beginning, or you establish this conflict, or you establish, some sort of revelation or something, right? It makes sense that then you end the show with that statement happening again, but the characters are in a whole new place, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you'll have shows that bookend that'll do an opening number and then they'll reprise the opening number at the end. I'm thinking of Sweeney Todd, attend the tale of Sweeney Todd, and then they reprise that at the end. And then sometimes you'll have, like in Ragtime, you have Wheels of a Dream. You have a song that really means a lot, and then that'll be they'll do a reprise of that at the end. So it depends.
So then the last type of tune that we had listed here is the very Broadway specific 11 o'clock number.
Yep. Yeah. So from my understanding, curtain times used to be 8:30, which is why the 11 o'clock number was the 11 o'clock number, because right around that time, you're wrapping things up and you're getting to the point where that character's singing their big anthemic number towards the end of the show. Again, you don't find these in every show, but you do find them in a lot of shows. That's the moment where we have an emotional climax for our protagonist, almost always for the protagonist, and it is the final emotional release or that transformation in the show. So like, Jekyll and Hyde would be the confrontation, where he's flipping back and forth between Jekyll and Hyde and the two versions of himself. And Gypsy, it would be Rose's turn, Mama Rose gets her big moment there. In Dreamgirls, we have "I'm Telling You I'm Not." Oh, that's the end of Act 1 in Dreamgirls, right? That's the end of Act 1. Still impressive.
It came up on a list of 11 o'clock numbers for me. That might be one of those tunes where it serves sort of a similar function of an 11 o'clock number, even though it's not happening at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, it's not at that point in the show, but yeah. I would also classify, even though Being Alive is a finale, I would also classify that as an 11 o'clock number. It just has that kind of feel to it. Memory from Cats. Yeah.
Yeah. And Being Alive came up when I was sort of, Googling this and looking into, ones for this. Being Alive came up, even though, it's also kind of technically the last song of the show, but also it's a slightly shorter show than some other ones. So
yes, and structured differently as well.
When trying to think of an 11 o'clock number, is there any more specificity that you can think of to approach it? What really is the thing that defines it, or how could we find our way into it? Or is it more like we're just sort of this far into the show, let's make sure we don't lose the audience and we like really give them a showstopper?
Yeah, and it also comes down to the performer too. Like, do we need to give the performer something to really, showcase their stuff in the second act? Look, it has to always come down to dramatic function. If the character is in a place where they need some kind of last minute push towards resolution, or they have to work through some final issue, or there's something that's still outstanding, some problem that is still not solved, that takes up that 11 o'clock spot. And again, that doesn't happen in every show. Sometimes they get that through a song with another character, or sometimes that might even be not as usual, and I'd be hard pressed to come up with them, but that might even happen in dialogue sometimes. But yeah, the character needs to have some kind of moment where they need to work through a final problem before the end of the show. And that's where the 11 o'clock number would go.
That's great. Yeah. And so when we think of 11 o'clock numbers, they are going to be more energetic. They're going to be more dynamic. They're going to be these tunes that really makes you, drop your jaw and see what this performer can do, or see what's happening dramatically with the character. And they're, I guess, like we've been saying with all these other tunes or types of tunes, they there's always flexibility on what exactly type of song it is.
Yeah, they're all over the map, I think.
Going back to the specific tunes that grew out of this medium, I love that it is called the 11 o'clock number. It isn't even about the character or the story. It is literally, we don't want people to fall asleep. We don't want people to leave. We want to make sure this show is still dynamic at this time, which is just so funny to me that that's what it is. That's the business side coming in, or the storytelling side coming in, and they aren't calling it, it's that act 2 number. The term that got solidified was 11 o'clock. I just love that as a way that it has evolved.
Yeah, it's the last hurrah.
You just said the last hurrah, and which reminded me of the last midnight, which I would assume that is the 11 o'clock number in Into the Woods, right?
Yeah, that would be.
Which I just think is a great example of a lot of the things you're talking about. It is this huge moment. It's really like everything is being, called out for what it is. The witch is showing how everyone has made their own mistakes and is pointing, because it also comes right out of your fault, right? And then she makes this big, declaration that sort of starts to speak to those broader themes of the show. Everyone is good, everyone is bad, blame the witch, all the various things. And that show is that song is so captivating. When that happens, you are just leaning forward and on the edge of your seat, and it's a character moment, a story moment, and 11 o'clock moment.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, that moment I love too, because the witch is sort of claiming her spot in the narrative there. I mean, she, I love when she says to everybody that you're not good, you're not bad, you're just nice. We have this theme throughout the show of good. Nice is different than good, this whole thing. It comes to such a head in that moment.
Yeah, there's so many things about that tune that we will unpack, and everyone will for a long time. But I just love that. You said last hurrah, last midnight, and that's the last song type that we had on our list.
It is. We made it to the end.
We made it to the end. Again, I just want to remind everyone that, follow your heart. Do the best with what with this conversation and these tropes and these song types. I think it can be so helpful when you're trying to figure out what type of tune is next. Maybe you're like, oh, I haven't written a comedy song yet, or we don't have a ballad, or we need some sort of conflict. Here's the moment for that song. I find having these structures can be helpful, but that's what they should always be, is helpful. They shouldn't be holding you back. You shouldn't feel like I need to fit into this box. They should always be helpful.
I agree completely. Yeah, you have to allow yourself room to be creative and room to play. I mean, that is why they call it a play, after all, right? We have to play.
Absolutely.
And of course, as always, if you've got a friend that loves musicals and you think wants to know more, share this with them. We want to grow our community and make this one of the best places for musical theater lovers in the world.
Absolutely. So that's the end of part 2. Thanks again for listening. We really appreciate it. And as always, if you can hop over to Patreon, you can join as a free member, or if you are able to join as a paid subscriber, we have bonus content for you. And we are just so grateful for all of your support and look forward to sharing more with you. So thanks again.